Everything happens when it has to happen. God's times are perfect. So simple words that they seem to become so trivial or banal or out of meaning. However, at the end, they keep so much truth and wisdom behind them. Unfortunately, we have not learned to understand them and to truly internalize them in our lives and in our way of living. Welcome to Clichés Reinvented, reinventing life's clichés, a space where I'm going to share information, thoughts, and insights to help us both live a life in consciousness. These are reflections that have helped me with my personal growth and to live a happier and more conscious. This is why now I want to share them with you. I want to thank you for being here today and taking the time to listen to this podcast. Thank you for deciding to be here with me and with yourself. I think that I have not been the only one who has always heard the famous phrase, God's times are perfect, or everything happens when it has to happen. And I feel that we've heard it so many times, we've heard them so many times that this famous phrases has become one cliche more, let's say. However, something really curious happens with this one, and that is that many people find its meaning after the problem or the storm and the chaos has passed. What do I mean by this? That as long as things do not happen the way we want them to or how we are expecting them, to happen, we live under stress, thinking about why things don't happen when we want them to, and we refuse many times to think that God's times are perfect and that everything happens when it has to happen. The two facts that we must learn to trust and do everything within our reach don't cross our minds. We forget that our anxiety and stress will not make things instantly change. And whenever things do not turn out as we expect them to, this cycle of stress and anxiety is repeated over and over again. And here comes the $1,000,000 question. Why is it so difficult to trust, be patient, and simply enjoy the journey? We live in a society where being stressed is normal. We're being rushed and accelerated so that everything happens the way we want it to happen is normal. And we haven't realized how much damage we do to ourselves by thinking that we have everything under control and thinking that stress is a normal part of life. What should be normal is what makes us feel good, what makes us feel at peace and calm. With everything else, there's something wrong. It's as simple as that. And when it comes to learning to be patient, understanding what is within our reach and what is not, and learning to unlink what happens in the material world to what happens in our head and our thoughts, it becomes a real challenge. Like, seriously, because they are completely different things. And that if we do not know how to handle them, what happens here and what happens in our minds, this can lead us to a life without peace nor well being, and these things depend entirely on what happens inside us, in our head, not on what is outside. It's just that when we lose control, we don't realize our power and the power we have over our actions. And we don't realize that what we have or haven't done is done. I mean, it's over. And no matter how much we cry or how much we stress ourselves out, it will not change the result of what has already happened. Regarding this fascinating topic, I am going to share a personal story time where, as always, after the storm has already passed, I was able to understand in a more personal and, let's say, organic way that God's times are really perfect and that everything happens when it has to happen. Like, really. When we live more consciously, we realize that these two phrases are present in absolutely everything that happens to us, in everything we do every single time, and in our entire life. From the most apparently small thing to the biggest one. So, a bit of context about my life for those who don't know and to understand this story time a little bit better. At this moment, I'm in Germany. I've been living here for almost a year and a half. My number one goal from the moment I arrived here was to study at a public university in Germany. However, I knew that I had to take German courses for about a year, since my level was like very, very low when I came here. After that, the plan was to do student college, which is, in other words, a foundation year to validate your bachelor's and be able to apply to a public German university. And the fact is that to enter, I had to take an exam that's done every 6 months. So the fact that you don't pass the exam means waiting 6 months for the next opportunity. And well, I had in mind that I was going to take this exam in September 2022 and I will go to student college. I will start studying, and then in October 2023 I will officially start my degree. And from there, 3 years or so or a little more to finish it. Like, those were my plans. That was what I had in my head and what I had in mind practically since the moment I arrived to Germany, or let's say even before. But guess what? Not everything happens the way we expect them to happen. And the exam date arrived September 6th, 2022, and I did not pass. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you, it like hit me very, very hard, despite the fact that it was obvious that I didn't really prepare myself enough for it. Like, however, I realized this after reflecting on everything that had happened to me. It hit me hard because it was like, and now what? What? Everything I had planned for almost a year had vanished. Like, I was wondering, I'm going back to Munich to do what? Because I wasn't at that time at the moment. Yeah, I did all the German courses up to C1 for what? Now I will enter to the university hopefully in October 2024 if I enter the second attempt, which was in February. And the usual comparison also came back to my mind, like my classmates in Colombia are already undergoing their fifth semester or so, and I haven't even started studying. I'm never going to graduate, I'm never going to study, and like I really cried and cried like so much. And like here, I'm literally opening myself up with you guys, and yeah, my story. Then I called my parents to tell them that I didn't pass, and thank God my dad comforted me, supported me, gave me his words of encouragement that, to tell the truth, helped me a lot. Here, I'm going to spoil a little bit of my dad's life a little. I hope I can bring him one like in an upcoming episode. But the fact is that what he told me when I was being a little bit way too dramatic, let's say, was like, hey, look, like, daughter, I graduated at 30. Don't worry. Look, like, here I am. Life doesn't end. Don't worry. Everything will be fine. And at the end, I calmed down and understood that it was not as bad as it seemed in my head, you know? Then I talked to my mom, and here the conversation was a bit different. I have to admit that I said something that wasn't actually very nice or mature from my side. My mother was very, very upset with the news. She was worried about my financing being here in Germany and that I wasn't doing anything. So in the call, I complained and listened to what, and I want you to listen to what came out of my mouth. Like, really, it's just that I can't believe that I said this, but I said it. And I was like, is that you didn't pressure me or force me or told me anything to prepare me well for this exam or to study more. And a short context, my parents have never in my life bothered me about studying. Like, not even school. If anything, they kind of knew when I had my exams, but that was it. They never bothered me or anything with my studies, with my grades, and as well, I was just kind of responsible, and I knew that I could not fail the year, and that was it. But then I told my mom this, and the call was already quite heated, and then she tells me, and I'm never gonna do it. Like, neither will your dad. You think I'm gonna force you to study so that later you get depressed and sad all the time? Like, no, ma'am. If you don't wanna study, don't study. Your dad and I will never force you to do something you don't wanna do. So, if you don't want to study, come back to Colombia, start looking for a job, and that's it. You don't live under this whole stress, and neither do we. And you will not believe it, but her words were like so eye opening. It was like, God, I was speechless because she was absolutely right. So after these conversations with my parents, it was like, okay, I have to really reflect on a lot of things. First, realize that I had not really studied or prepared enough for an exam as difficult as the one that I had taken. The month before the exam, I spent it traveling, going out, and supposedly me studying, but not really actually. I realized that it wasn't really a surprise that I didn't pass the exam. And as my mom tells my sister, like, you can tell God and your angels and say that you will pass your exam and that you will do well, but if you don't study, you simply won't pass, period. And that's just the truth. However, I don't regret having enjoyed that month before the exam because I actually had a great time. I lived unforgettable experiences and moments, but it was like it came to a point where it was like, okay, Carol, like, now what? What comes next? I had to set priorities, and this was a key point. The thing was that I had not really reflected on my priorities before and what was real important to me and for my life, or at least not consciously, let's say. Although now that I think about it, the important thing for me at the moment, without being really aware of it, was just to be calm and enjoy. But I had forgotten that I had a goal, and it was to study in Germany, and that if I didn't make an effort to achieve it, it was just not gonna happen. So I established priorities, and number one priority at the time was German. And that got like really into my head. And to not make it very long, 6 months went by, 6 months of huge change. It's no joke when I say huge change. I started to implement new habits in my life. I had to learn to manage my time by myself since I didn't took courses or anything. I was alone against the world. In November, I started studying way too much, or just too much for me. The thing was that I have never tried so hard to achieve something before. It was a whole roller coaster of emotions because sometimes the factor of time would come back to me, thinking that I was 6 months behind in life, and it was like, ugh, I hate this. And German frustrated me sometimes because it's not an easy language, let's say. I cried many others thinking about what I was doing, doubting if I could really handle this because I had also never been a very, very outstanding student, so the study was really intimidating me. However, I didn't stop. I kept going to the library and so on. Also, as it was the time to implement new habits, there was a tremendous mess in my life. For those who don't know, when you start to change habits in your life and implement new ones, this never happens in a straight line. But it's just another roller coaster. Sometimes it goes well and many others it doesn't. So I was a mess with my eating habits. I spent whole days without eating anything. I got stressed. etc., etc. However, I didn't stop. Then the day of the exam finally arrived, and despite the fact that I felt okay days before and the day of the exam at night, I cried because I was just so tired. I was emotionally tired because I said, like, God, I had never made such an effort for something before. I'm tired that my future depends on a single thing, that all my plans depend on one grade. But whatever, like, there was nothing to do. That's just how the system I got myself into works. And it was that I wasn't used to put so much energy into an exam. So, in other words, it was the first time that I had worked so hard and with so much love for just one thing. A week later, the result arrived and I passed. Haha. I'm studying right now. I literally passed thanks to my effort and dedication. Like, obviously, I was very, very happy, but still, days before receiving the result, I was very stressed, like, thinking about it. Like, I had a lot of pressure in my head, and this didn't let me be calmed, let's say, until I had to say to myself, no more. Like, I'm going to enjoy my days. I'm gonna have an excellent time. And if it does not work, something else will work out for me. I only have to trust that whatever has to happen will happen. Repeating these words to myself helped me to stay calm because of the stress of these days, I almost couldn't fully enjoy myself with my best friend in Paris because of thinking about something else. And the thing at the moment was that whatever I did or thought or however I felt, this had no effect on the result, whether good or bad. Like, it wouldn't change. And it was just saying to myself, you're here. Look at what you have around yourself. Look where you are. Just enjoy it. And we'll see what happens with the result and what continues in the path of my life, actually. And I did this to trust and to put stress and anxiety aside. In any case, it's a whole storm of emotions that, in the end, what are they good for? For nothing. Because in the end, the only thing that really mattered was what I did with the time I had. Crying, well, yes, it helped me to release and express my feelings, but the whole stress just prevented me from enjoying the path. And obviously, after having passed and starting classes, I began to realize that, thank God, I didn't pass the first time because I was simply not prepared. I wasn't prepared academically nor emotionally. I hadn't realized what I was getting myself into. I had not realized the person I had to become to fulfill my dreams and goals. And going back to today's topic, God's times are just perfect. And indeed, they are. We must learn to trust life, internalize that we do not have absolute control of things, but we do have control over our time and ourselves. And this is what will play the most important role in the evolution of our lives. Things happen for a reason, and always, if you're aware of it, you will realize why things happened in a certain way and not in another, or not at another time. Something key to be able to really internalize this common cliche in our lives and literally live it day by day in order to reduce stress, which in the end does not bring anything good, is to implement serenity and clarity of thoughts in our lives. If there is a situation that is worrying us at this moment, that things are not happening now and as we want them to happen, we must reflect on our role in that situation. Like, how important is what I can do to obtain the expected results, the wanted result. And if it highly depends on what I do, then there's the answer to your problems. It depends on you. If you want to change it, you have to change yourself. And there will be no place for stress because your mind will be busy developing a plan of action to achieve what you want, since everything depends on you. Obviously, there may be falls in the road, but the important thing is to go back to our center. Always go back to the why are we doing it and live day by day. Do what we can with our time and be aware of this. If not, stress will just kill us. And now, what happens if what I already did will not change anything on another situation? Well, just take it easy, like chill. There you have the answer. Like nothing you do now will change. It only and will not nothing you do will change it. Only you deep down know the answer. On the other hand, if we see that a situation is making us feel bad, we can always rely on our mental power to change our reality. And I know that sometimes it's hard to believe, but everything is related. And here I go back to the manifestation, and I will keep talking about it because it is something that has played a really important role in my life. And it is what I always use, and with what I felt better. And just as it makes me feel better and brings me good results, it might do the same for another person who is listening to this. Maybe not for everyone, and it's completely understandable. Each of us have our own ways to solve our problems and to live life, but there might be another person like me, and that's why I will keep on saying and sharing this information. So, even in moments of frustration, the important thing is to continue declaring and doing affirmations about the reality that we want. For example, despite how frustrated and stressed I felt with German, I was always saying and writing like I'm excellent in German. I study at the Studienkolleg. I study in German. I'm doing very well and blah blah blah. Like literally everything I wanted, repeating once and over again, like before going to sleep, write it like every time, like it was always in my mind. And in the end, what fills you with peace is knowing that you're giving your best and that if things happen, it is because that is for you. And if not, a new path always opens up, which you may not have seen before, but it is there. There's always another option. Or new paths may open up to get to what you want, but just in a different way. Here, we are all learning to live and learning to live better. I share this reflection because it has filled me with peace, and now what makes me feel better is my own peace. So I just feel better being at peace than being stressed, and that's it. Point. Period. I hope you can take advantage of these insights shared in this episode. Today it was a little bit different and it was more of a story time, but at the end, that's what we all are, stories. And when we share our story, the background and the teaching, we can contribute something to the evolution and the development of others, or just in our own development, because really we might not think about it that often, but to remember that what we have achieved and everything we've been through, it's just necessary, because it is normal that we sometimes forget how capable we are of things, where we come from, or our value, and all we are capable of achieving. Thank you for arriving to the end of this episode. I hope you really enjoy it. If you liked what you heard, share it to your friends, to your family. Don't forget to follow Clichés Reinvented on Instagram, clichés underscore re underscore invented. Have a really, really nice day.